MBA program. And you'll hear this, we'll refer to as a 4+1. While it's not the only way, the majority of our students will take a MBA class the spring semester of their senior year, which has some financial benefits we'll get into, as well as you kind of trying out the program, seeing what it's all about. The program is accredited by AACSB International. And you might have seen that around the business school or at your own business school, if you're not from Roger Williams. And that's a very important accreditation. There are only 400 accredited business schools in the country. And one of the things Marcus and I always like to say is if you end up going somewhere besides Roger Williams, you make sure it's an accredited business school. There are certain standards in place. Employers are starting to take notice of that. So that's real important, and we're happy to have that accreditation here. We do have both an internship requirement, which is really important, because one of the things, depending on where you are in your academic career, some of you may be going straight through for your MBA. Some of you may be out of a year or two and coming back. This is a way for you to get some experience while you're going to school. And usually around 2/3, 70% of our students are offered a full-time position from their internship. And while it might not be their dream job always, sometimes an internship is an internship. You kind of get what you're going to get out of it and leave and kind of go on to bigger and better things. It's always nice to have options, and it's always nice to be asked. So that's something that we really believe in, and I've seen it make a difference. The international component's been something that we really haven't talked about a lot in these crazy times, but was such an important part of this program, and what I think really differentiates it from other programs in the region, and that we do have a strong international focus in the spring. Which is your second semester and second and last semester. So what's so far, we always have to be cautiously optimistic around this. It looks like we may be able to travel again in the spring with our current class, which we are looking forward to. All of you on this call will work internationally somehow, whether it's just having clients or customers that are abroad or traveling abroad periodically. And it's just something that we think really sets the program apart, and as a result sets you apart. As far as the courses we have, we try to have courses that reflect the demands in the corporate world today. And an MBA in general will let you be better at critical thinking, data analytics, leadership. And one of the things that we are proud of is that you can customize your degree here a little bit through some electives. And we do have some interesting electives that really go beyond the business school and to other graduate programs. We'll have students take some classes in our out of our leadership program, which makes a lot of sense. And some of those are human resource focused, so we like that. And then we'll have students that take some psychology or even criminal justice electives, just to do something a little bit different. So, and I'll get into that in more detail. But just again, this shows a quick highlight of what makes our program a little special. So to kind of take a step back, why is an MBA important in the first place? And I think first and foremost is that it's a credential and a master's degree that everybody recognizes, and everyone also recognizes that once you get up in management, once you're in a leadership position, it's really expected. And on that second bullet, I make it sound a little I think extra professional here, yeah. But I usually say an MBA has gone from a nice to have to a need to have. And it's something that will definitely differentiate yourself in the job market. I usually say it makes sure your resume is put on top. Now, the rest of that is up to you, but that credential will certainly help you stand out. And while we list all the different fields you could go into with your MBA, we could make this a very long list, because I really can't think of a field where an MBA wouldn't help you and create options for you. And that's because that it's really expected that of upper management and leadership positions that one has their MBA. Next slide, Marcus. So what we do here to make things a little bit different, as I mentioned, that we are an accredited one-year program. I like to tell students, you'll walk across the stage in May, if you're going straight through. You'll walk across in May, you'll blink, you'll be addicted to coffee, you'll learn how to function on very little sleep, and you'll be walking across the stage again with a master's degree. The second bullet highlights one of the things I mentioned at the beginning of the advantage of taking that course in the spring. And what this allows you to do is save $3,000, because you'll only have to pay for 33 credits when you're actually a full-time graduate student. But I think equally as important is going to graduate school is a big decision. And again, for those of you going straight through, it lets you try it out before you make your final decision. And that class is called Ethical Leadership in Organizations, and Dr. Knight teaches that for us. And that class is actually taught in Bristol, because most of you that again are going straight through will be in Bristol. And he's amazing. If you haven't had him, you will enjoy him. Moving along here, gaining experience with the required internship and global experience. I mentioned the importance of those, and we have, even with the pandemic, we've had students get some great internships, and with the global experience, as I said, I really think we'll be traveling this year. So those of you on the call, my hope is we're traveling when you're in the program. And lastly, I think just like our undergraduate experience, I like to think that our faculty in the MBA program will drop everything to help a student. And I think you'll get that same level of care, that same dedication to your success that you experienced in undergrad if you went to Roger Williams. Thanks, Marcus. So while the first course that spring is in Bristol, when you're a full-time student the following fall, the program is held up at our Providence campus. And just a few pictures here, and one of the things, I think on the next slide, do we have a few of the features?
What are you looking for, Jay?
Yeah, actually, this is fine. So one of the things I really like, can you go back actually? Sorry. One of the things I like about this campus, because this is a graduate degree, and the Providence campus, if you haven't been there, is much more like a corporate office building than a college campus. So the feedback that myself and others have received, other professors and Marcus have received, is this is a great stepping stone for launching your career, because it is more of a corporate environment. And we have, that's a picture of our classroom and some study areas. We have some conference rooms, some study rooms, and faculty usually before they teach have office hours up there. And so it's a great environment. And, and being in the city, a lot of students have commented that it's a step closer to the real world, which I would agree. So the actual curriculum will look something like this. One of the things, some of you may take the Ethical Leadership of Organization course I mentioned in the spring. If you're currently a RWU senior, this is something that if you apply, you're going to want to make sure you leave a space for in your spring schedule. And Marcus and I can talk to you about that and help you with that. We do have students that join the program late, or for some reasons there's a conflict in the spring. So we do run a small seminar with that course in the fall. So if you miss it, it's not the end of the world. but you get the cost savings and you get to kind of see what it's all about if we can get that in your schedule that spring semester of your senior year. But then for everybody else, or not everybody else, but the way the program would start is the first full week before classes start, we have what's called our Rogers Review. And this is a session we've put together to really make sure everyone is hitting the ground running once classes start. And we have an econ session, an accounting session, a data analytics section. I do a section on marketing. We do a full day of both verbal and written communications, which is just critical in really no matter what you do anymore. And it's also a great chance for students to get to meet their professors, and usually everyone's excited to start the program, and so this has been something that we've seen the impact. And in the fall, you'll have 4 courses, and this is always a good time for me to point out that at the graduate level, our courses the structure is a little different. Your courses meet once a week. And for 3 hours, usually with a break or two in the middle, of course. And you would take accounting, marketing, econ, and data analytics in the fall. And in the spring, we have finance, strategic management, and then global business. And usually our international experience would be in the spring. You'll see there's 6 electives listed in the spring. We have been able to have students take those at different times. Even the summer before, we've had students take electives or during winter session. And so we can help you do that. Doing both in the spring with all that is kind of a lot. So we do try to have you get one elective out of the way before the spring. And then the internship can be shifted around as well. Hopefully this is always exciting and great news, depending on when you do it, but you could take that before the program officially starts, or after your senior year, or actually after graduation. I usually have 6 or 7 students, or I did this past year, that walk in May and then finish up their internship over the summer. And most of those later internships turn into a full-time position, which is always exciting. So, and what I would like you to take away from all this is we have some flexibility that I know our students appreciate, and you can, tailor this to your schedule and all of that. As I mentioned, these classes meet once a week. Which is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and your Monday and Friday are open to give you time for an internship or for another job, or to work on your coursework, group work, things like that. And I think now is a good time to have a current student, Sammy Rose, talk a little bit about her experience. And Sammy, maybe you talk a little bit about taking that course in the spring and transitioning into the fall, and what the experience is like up in Providence.
Yeah, definitely. So first off, living in Providence is such a big difference from coming from undergrad in Bristol. There's definitely a lot more excitement with all of the businesses that are in Providence. I think just like the city lifestyle really makes you become more professional. Dr. Knights does a great job with his class. I think it's a great transition from undergrad course load into a graduate course load, and he's very flexible with making sure that you know what you're doing. So I would definitely recommend doing it in the spring if you can. That being said, like Jay said, there are some students that take it in the fall. So just whatever works with your schedule. Let's see, yeah. Probably the greatest thing so far with the MBA is that I have grown my network to an extent that I can't even imagine possible without this program. Coming from like the alums of the program, and also like the faculty, the professors, and the current students that we have now, I have just been meeting people and talking to people that I never thought possible. So it's really great. Yeah, overall, it's a great decision to do. And I think applying to jobs now, which I'm doing myself, employers are definitely looking for that MBA title. So I highly recommend doing it.
And maybe you could talk a little bit, because I could say this too, but we've even with COVID, we're meeting face to face. We are Zoom ready in the classroom, so we can, if someone has to quarantine, we can take care of that. But we can also Zoom people in. We Zoomed in some alumni last week. But maybe you could talk a little bit about like what the Providence campus is like.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's great. Again, it's much different from Bristol. If you come to visit, which I highly recommend, I did it too my senior year. It's very fast paced, and it looks, like you said, more of what you would see in your place of work versus a classroom. And there's a lot of, I would say there's quite a bit of group work when you're doing your MBA. So it's nice because there's a lot of study rooms. There's a student room designed for everybody to come and meet, and there's a coffee machine, there's printers. It's a great atmosphere, and the location is perfect. You have Hasbro toys down the road, you have Fidelity, you have all these huge corporate offices just right around the corner. So it's really great.
So one last thing, I'll put you on the spot a little bit. What is the coursework like? Like, is it, I always say things aren't hard, they just take time. So how's your transition? Is it?
I would say it's definitely hard. It's not hard, it's challenging. And I think that's a good thing. Personally, with my undergrad experience, I was not challenged as much as I am now. So I owe a lot of like figuring things out and taking the time. And it is a lot of time, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely worth it. And I'm learning a lot. Like, we're learning the SSPS IBM softwares, which you would never learn in your undergrad. Just a lot of things that are definitely challenging, but worth it. And you should know it. So.
Well, and I'll just add one last thing to that. I usually about like halfway into the spring semester, because I'll have an undergraduate class going in Bristol as well, and I'll see some of my MBA students might stop by for office hours, and they're always just so different. The MBA program, and not just here but anywhere, will teach you that there's a problem or opportunity. You have a couple ways to go about solving it, and you want to go with option 2 for these 3 or 4 reasons. And it teaches you just to break things down very systematically. And so I when I see students that are 3/4 of the way done, they look like different people, because they in a very positive way. And when we had some alumni in, Sammy, we had students that were only out, since May, right? So they're only, they're a year older than you. And didn't they seem a lot different?
Yeah, they seemed like miles away from me, but in a good way.
But you'll be there too. And just like people on this call, it's something it's very doable. And again, I always say this, that usually things can be hard, but if you put your time in, you can figure it out. And there's lots of resources, and we're here to help, and so, but no, thank you so much. And you might get some direct questions as we go further along. This felt like a good place to bring you in.
Yeah, feel free to ask me anything.
All right, next slide. So I'm hoping to add to this slide next year, or no, I'm sorry, in the spring when we can travel again. But as I mentioned, international travel was just such an important part of how we wanted to differentiate this program. We had a great trip to Panama in 2018, more of a supply chain logistics trip. The one thing I'll say this on the next slide as well, but part of these trips, it's usually a mix of company visits and some cultural experiences, and you get to see how business is done abroad. But every company we went to, at the conclusion, everybody always said, hey, we're hiring, we're looking for good people, and please visit our website. And so, as I said, the world is so much more global today that some of you may elect to work abroad. And this is something we certainly try to set you up for in the program. Next slide. So, and we went to China the following year, And if you'll see that lower left picture is at Microsoft. And at the end of that presentation, it was, you seem like a good group. We're hiring. Please visit our website. And that was a good experience. You know, and I'll add this for what it's worth. And one of the benefits of traveling abroad is I think it opens your horizons and things. All of my preconceptions of China were wrong. We had such a wonderful visit. You know, and so I would, it was just amazing. I think everyone had a real positive experience. I should say that no matter where we go, this abroad experience, and it's not abroad as in your undergrad, you're not going for a whole semester. This is something where in the spring you have the global business class with Dr. Hall, and we have an international experience course that kind of preps you for this trip. And then we go for like 8 or 9 days. And so it's a trip. It's usually early April. And that's something that we do in the semester. So it's not the full semester, unfortunately. But that way you get something really great. And I think what I was going to say, I may have already said this, but a lot of students will comment on how it comes up in job interviews that they've had some this experience abroad that really complements their MBA.
Do you want me to jump in here, Jay?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
All right. And forgive me, I can't see anybody on the screen. My Zoom's acting up, so I'm just speaking to an empty screen at the moment. So if you're currently a senior, and I know we have different class years on the line, so for those of you who are a little bit younger, you can think about this for your senior year. You do have to submit an application by December 1st, ideally, although if you are a few weeks after that, Dr. Oliver and I will work with you on that. It's not the end of the world. But the goal is to get you admitted and cleared and all that before the holiday break, and get you into that, hopefully into that senior class to fit in into your undergraduate curriculum your spring semester. So you save that money, and that's actually double dips. It counts as an elective for your undergrad and counts for the grad program. In addition to the application, which you do online on our website, we have a required letter of intent, which is basically 1 to 2 pages, double spaced, nothing significant, just really telling us why you want to get your MBA, what you hope to do, maybe what your long-term career goals are, how you might help the MBA and the MBA might help you get there, and so on. 2 letters of recommendation. They can come from faculty or internship supervisors, work supervisors, as long as they're professional. And they can be submitted directly through our system, so you can put the names and email addresses of your recommenders into the application. We will get your transcripts, so do not request your transcripts. I don't know if you talk about Lean Six Sigma and process improvement and all of that in your MBA classes, maybe you will. But I still to this day hold a FedEx envelope, it's over here somewhere in my office, that a student requested their transcripts and they were worried about the deadline, so they had them expedited. And literally from the registrar's office, now I'm in the admissions building on campus, 2 buildings down, the registrar, they FedEx overnight transcripts, went to the Springfield facility up in Massachusetts and back to my office the next day. Probably not the best process, and unfortunately the registrar didn't catch it, and it was expensive for the student and so on. So do not request your transcripts. That's the moral of the story. We'll get the transcripts for you. We're looking for you to have a 3.0 GPA or higher. This is not necessarily a mandate. We'll work with you if you have a little bit below that. Certainly we'll consider your work experience if you have any internships and so on. You will have to take a standardized test, especially for those of you that are below that threshold. So Gmat or a GRE. The Gmat is the graduate management admissions test. It's pretty standard for business schools around the country, but many business schools also accept the GRE, the graduate records examination. GRE is essentially the grad school version of the SAT. I'm sure ETS wouldn't like me calling it that, but that's basically what it is. And the Gmat's a little bit more math heavy. So for those of you who aren't as math inclined, you might find GRE is a little bit more straightforward for you. GRE is a little bit less expensive to take as well. So it's going to cost you a couple $100. We don't encourage you to take them more than you have to. But I also want to encourage you to take the time to study and prepare appropriately, and take those tests when you're not dealing with a lot of other chaos. So if you know that you're going to have to take the GRE or the GMAT, we do waive students. You'd have to have at least a 3.2 grade point average or higher. So we will waive students in many cases above that threshold. It's not a guarantee, but in most cases a 3.2, or if you're a member of Beta Gamma Sigma, we will waive you from that requirement. So just work with us as you're thinking about the program. Reach out to me or Jay. We can talk to you more about whether you might qualify for that or not. And if you need to prepare, ideally, you're not scrambling to take the GRE in December of your senior year. It's been done, but it's not ideal. So if you think you might need to take it after talking with us, ideally, if you're a junior, talk to us now. And if you think that's going to be a likelihood, take it in the summer if you can. You can focus on studying, not be juggling schoolwork and projects and tests and all that stuff, and then do really well and only take it one time and off you go. So we want you to do well. But for those of you who are above the 3.2, you'll be considered for a GMAT or GRE waiver. So that's a nice benefit. And it's really motivation for those of you that are earlier in your college career to keep your grades up, because they do matter with your test scores. And as I'll tell you in a minute, it'll also impact your financial aid. So things to keep in mind.
And let me just jump in there real quick, Marcus, because I think sometimes those tests can be intimidating. And I think that, when you're looking at graduate school, you've kind of made a mental, you flipped a mental switch that you want to better yourself. And I would never let a standardized test get in the way of graduate school. And so it goes back to what I said earlier. Sometimes things aren't hard, they just take time. And there are lots of resources available. There's practice tests, which I would recommend. A lot of this stuff you haven't seen since high school. And, let us know if you're in that situation. But Marcus and I can certainly recognize we've all had, well, I won't speak for Marcus, but I know I certainly had that bad sophomore year, right, or bad freshman year that kind of hit my GPA, and then I figured things out. And so, I'm different now. And so a good GRE score is a way to show that, look, you had a bad semester and you're serious and you'll be a good graduate student. And there's lots of resources. And so I do think you need to plan accordingly, because it's not something I'd have you walk in cold and just take. But don't build it up to be something that's going to stand in the way. Just, I always tell students, it's one of those things. If you put an hour or two, a day, which sounds like a lot, but if you let's say you put five hours a week in for 4 weeks, you're there, right? And so that's something that in any part of our asking for that is that we are AACSB accredited. So any accredited school is going to look for something like this. And so without like going on and on and on, it's something, don't be discouraged, and you can figure out all the tricks and what to do and get it done, and then you're in. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out, Marcus.
Yeah, and one thing I'll say more broadly that Jay and I in particular, but I think most of us at the graduate level are really focused on getting you to your best next step, whatever that may be. I think for most folks going into business, having an MBA is going to be a necessary step, as Jay alluded to earlier on. And hopefully we'd love to have you stick around for the MBA here. But more broadly, if you're looking at graduate school in general, GRE, GMAT, those are going to be required for most places. So just something to keep in mind. And from a prep standpoint, Jay mentioned those practice tests. ETS that runs the GRE, they offer 2 fully scored practice tests. I think they're about $40 a piece right now. I'm not sure about the GMAT, but I'm sure they offer something similar. And though half the battle, most of us have test anxiety. I can't tell you how many students I talk to that say, "Oh, I have test anxiety, I'm not going to do well." Part of that is a self-talk that we kind of get into, and then we don't do well because we psych ourselves out. I think one of the best ways to remediate that is to really take practice tests, get a feel for the questions that are being answered, the timing, because they are timed tests, So just getting used to all of that. So when you're getting into the exam itself, you're not concerned about reading instructions or getting a feel for format and all that kind of stuff. So definitely take practice tests. That's one of the best things you can do. You don't need to necessarily, for 98% of the people we talk to, you don't have to spend upwards of $1,000 on a test or a prep class. If you want to take an online class for less than $500, by all means. But for the vast majority of students, getting one of the practice books and going through those big thick books that you can buy at Barnes and Noble or buy them online, and just taking a couple of practice tests, that'll be the best prep for the vast majority of students. But give yourself time, as Jay mentioned. So a few things about the program more in general. The MBA is only open to majors or minors in business. And they have to be either from the Gabelli School here, or they could be from elsewhere. We have some students that have come in. I know we have a student now. Lance is from URI, right, Jay? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and we've had we've accepted students from a variety of schools, and so the important part here, which you're probably just going to get to, is just certainly let us know, and we're happy to kind of work with your unique situation and hopefully help.
Yeah, one of the unique things is, as I'm sitting here looking at my own MBA on the wall, I went to University of New Haven in Connecticut. And that program, just like most of the others you're going to run into, is typically a 2-year full-time curriculum. And it was 48 credits, which is fairly typical for an MBA, somewhere in that ballpark. And what we've done here with a 1-year program is we've streamlined the number of courses. You're only taking 36 credits, and really, in terms of content, you're taking 30 credits because of your internship and your study abroad, rounding out your program. Really, the differences between that 48 credit and the 30 credit are those core classes, really kind of, forgive the term, a 101 kind of foundational courses in accounting, finance, marketing, the foundational stuff. And by only allowing students with the equivalent of a business minor or better into the program, that's at least ensuring that students have had some business coursework. And like in my case, I waived out of 3 of my MBA classes because I took a certain number of undergraduate classes in macro and microeconomics and managerial accounting and those types of things. So all of you have that basis, and that's how we are able to open this up as a 1-year opportunity to get you going. But you can't just come in with an English degree into our program. That's just not how it's set up. But to help with that, also knowing that in the Rogers Review workshop Jay mentioned is really designed for folks because you haven't touched a lot of this stuff in many years. Some of you haven't seen maybe economics since freshman or sophomore year. So now being able to kind of do a kind of refresher in that boot camp, for lack of a better term, in that the week before classes start, really kind of gets you up to a speed and then ready to really hit the ground running. So you're kind of taking more advanced foundational coursework in the MBA, and then getting your electives and, of course, your study abroad and internship. It's only a full-time program right now, so we don't have part-timers that are working full-time and coming in and dabbling in classes. So it's only a full-time thing. So you're in a cohort, which is kind of nice. And Jay alluded to it earlier on, and I think Sammy's seeing it already. You kind of build that network in your cohort because there's only 20 to 25 of you in that class, and you're all taking the same courses with the exception of your electives. And you're doing a lot of activities together with lectures. We had our MBA cruise. There's a lot of different things that we do each year to kind of celebrate and support the group. And those cohorts have really created this tight-knit network that's followed them well beyond the program. And these will be friends and colleagues for the rest of your lives. So, and it's been great seeing some of the students getting jobs from another cohort. One of the cohorts that graduated 3 years ago, now all of a sudden is hooking up somebody with a job that just graduated this past May. So it's nice seeing those connections continue throughout the network, and that's something you'll build because of the cohort and the full-time kind of nature, and you're all supporting each other through finishing the program. So we're anticipating the cost per credit in the coming year to be $1,049 per credit hour. That's a little different from what you're used to in undergrad, where you pay, if you're a full-time student, you're paying a semester rate. So you pay a flat number. If you are if you're going to be coming in as a grad student, you can even do your internship on the front side. I don't believe Jay mentioned that, but because you'll be a grad student once you're officially graduated, assuming you graduate in May as a senior, you can even start your internship that summer. So in some cases, just in that example, you might take 3 credits in your internship there, and then you take your, say, 12 credits in the fall, and then you take 12 in the spring. You're only paying as you take those courses rather than a flat amount. So the overall program for you right now is in the ballpark of about $34,000, give or take. And if you think about that in the cost, in terms of cost of undergrad versus graduate, it's roughly a year of undergraduate. So it's not all that much more expensive, especially for an MBA. We're pretty reasonable compared to a lot of the MBAs you'll find. There is a flat rate that we charge for the Rogers Review that covers that 4 days, a full 4 days of kind of boot camp type stuff. And then financial aid is a little bit different at the graduate level as well. Your merit scholarships and things that you might have in undergrad, unfortunately, don't follow you. And that's true of a lot of schools. That's not atypical here. And unfortunately, what I hear oftentimes is that you have no aid, institutional aid, no scholarships and things when you go into a graduate program when you're coming from the undergrad. We have decided here that not only are we offering you the savings if you take that class, and really make sure, especially those of you that are earlier in your academic career, plan to have an extra elective in your senior spring. Don't jam it all up early on, because I know a lot of the accounting students will do that in particular because you have a lot of credits you need and so on. But make sure you have a free elective or a management elective in your senior spring so that you can pop in that leadership course with Dr. Knights. That really maximizes your financial savings, because at current rates, that's over $3,000, as Jay mentioned earlier. And then depending on your GPA, we have a different threshold between a 3.3 and all the way up to a 4.0, of course. You can get between $1,500 and $4,500 in a scholarship that's in addition to the savings you've already made. So for many of you, you could be saving maybe upwards of $3,000 in a scholarship plus $3,000 off your course. You're talking about $6,000 off of a $36,000 or so master's degree. So quick math, what is that, 17, 16%? So I haven't looked at a calculator with that recently, but that's a pretty good chunk of money. You're talking about a 16%, savings off the quote unquote sticker price of your MBA. So really maximize that by, getting your grades up, and we'll help you with some financial aid there. Beyond that, the loans are a little bit different at the graduate level. They're not necessarily treated differently, but you have more money available to you. When you become a grad student, your parents are no longer, at least in the government's eyes, responsible for you. You're an independent student. So when you're taking these loans on, you're taking them on yourself. Your parents aren't held liable if they're not paid back and so on. So those are things to keep in mind. But the nice thing is when you're independent, your parents' assets and financials don't impact your ability to get loans anymore, or get any sort of assistance. So the federal direct unsubsidized loan, you can borrow $20,500 per year, and then you can borrow any more than you need that through the PLUS loan. You might have taken a parent PLUS loan undergrad, or it's just PLUS loan now. Interest rates are very competitive. You can pay them back over long terms, up to 20 years in many cases. You can get income-based repayment with the federal loans. So they're very advantageous as far as if you're borrowing money, having the option to pay them back at low interest, long-term repayment, no prepayment penalties, all that kind of stuff. But also as you're just starting out, as much as we love every one of our MBAs to walk out the door with a 6-figure salary, that is not reality for anybody at any school for that matter. So you know that you can maybe start out and you might be making a little bit lower than you might be making 5 years out. So you can actually have graduated loan payments based on how much you're making. So those are some nice options with the federal loans. If you go with private loans, you have to pay them back more quickly. There's not as much flexibility. And so on. So definitely consider those federal loans down the line. And for some of you, that's probably further down the line than thinking about right now, but just something to consider. These are our various kind of social channels. We do have a LinkedIn page for the MBA, so definitely follow that page. We post a lot about the things going on in the program. We have also a private group that's for our MBA student community that includes all of our alumni and current students. So that's something we'd engage you in once you're in the program. But again, building on that kind of network and community that we have around the MBA and all the students that are currently in it, but also have graduated over the years. And it's a great network. And they come back for dinners. And as Jay mentioned, they do guest panels and they help students with internships. And So it's really a nice tight-knit community that you'll become a part of. So all of that said, I mean, I don't, unless I missed anything, Jay, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, well, you know, you just touched on it, and I'll expand a bit. And I think Sammy has seen a little bit of this, but we're going to go into it in a lot more detail more this semester. Is that, you know, the program is much more than just the coursework, and it's networking, but it's also on being a professional and setting our students up for success. And that's something that, you know, very often I try to bring in speakers every chance I get. We have a few people that will come in and talk about managing and building your digital brand. I usually have someone come in and talk a little bit about what it means to be in sales. We have an alumni event, which is a great way to network together. In the spring before graduation, we connect with a job coach that kind of helps you get things together for that push right before graduation. And, you know, every chance I get, I put students in front of the class for public speaking. You know, I always say, if you wanted a way to put yourself on a different path, is get comfortable with public speaking, because it's just not one of those things that everyone, you know, rushes to. So and as an MBA, you got to be able to walk into a room and kind of take control. So it's more, I would say it's more than just the coursework. We try to do some team building activities as well. That and have some fun. I probably usually I would have led with that. We do have some fun in the program, and we're actually, as my background is from a kayaking trip we did last year, we're actually doing it again this Friday with our this year's students, and we did the sailing trip out of Newport 3 or 4 weeks ago. The international trip, and I'm really thinking we're going to be able to do it this year and next year and hopefully every year after. That's a lot of great bonds happen after that. So you know, I always like to say the MBA program's a family, and you know, it's one of those things that you know, it's more than just the coursework.
Well, does anybody have any questions that we could answer that maybe we missed? Or I don't know if there's anybody on the line that would have been pre-admitted or got kind of that welcome letter from us as a first-year student when you started. We will need you to just get an application form on file with us just for tracking purposes and accreditation and all that kind of stuff. But we'll work with you if you received the pre-admit. So, and congratulations for those of you who had. But let us know, work with Jay and me, and we'll make sure we get that taken care of for you.
And I see a few familiar names that we've exchanged a few emails. And so if this didn't answer all your questions, you know, one of the things that I'll do fairly often actually is that sometimes parents have questions. This is a big decision. You know, I usually like to say this is an investment in yourself. And so, you know, certainly, you know, I'm happy to help with that. And just let me know. A few of you have emailed about setting up a meeting next week, and I'm happy to do that. Timing wise, Marcus did mention that December 1st was the deadline. I'm gonna, for those of you that are seniors, I always like to say that Thanksgiving dinner tastes a little bit better when you can tell your parents and family what you're doing after graduation. So we could certainly, if you get your application in the next several weeks, we should be able to deliver some hopefully good news before then, and let us know that, like I said, we want to see you succeed. Maybe you're looking at another program, and we may know someone there if it looks like a better fit for you. Just you know, it's one of those things that we're you know, you're an RW alumni first, or student first, and so any way we can help. As Sammy said, she visited a class last year, and so she could see what it was all about. And if that's of interest, I'm happy to set that up with you. And you know, it's one of those things that I think you'll like what you see, but you know, it's always nice to be able to try it before you make a big decision.
Jay, forgive me if I missed this, but I want to make sure everybody understands so you all know the program is in Providence, but that first class is here in Bristol, and I can't remember if that was mentioned, but with the class with Dr. Knights in the spring, you wouldn't be traveling to Providence to take that class. You'd be doing that here.
That's correct. And you know, that kind of just made sense because all the other classes would be in Bristol. So for that first one, we do keep it here, or keep it in Bristol.
Would you like us to email the coordinates to the application for early? Yes, yeah, Devin, if you could, if you were offered early admission, just send us a quick email. Email me if you could, and then that way I can coordinate with the undergrad folks, make sure we got everything, you know, cross all our T's. But we'll have you all just submit a quick application online, and you can, the recommendation stuff we'll work with you on. You can just put like my name and Jay's in just to make sure you get it filled out, because the application might prevent you from going forward. But otherwise, I don't think we'll need anything else from you at that point. But we just need your formal kind of interest in the application, and we'll go from there.
Yep.
Go ahead, Jay.
I was just going to add, you know, one of the things I'm going to do this a little bit from memory, which is always dangerous. But, you know, we have, when you're looking at graduate program, one of the first questions I would always ask is, well, where are your graduates getting jobs? And you know, obviously it depends on your field and your interest, but we've had students go to all the major accounting firms. We've had students go to Fidelity Investments. We've had students go to some local but really good marketing and advertising agencies. Sammy's interning at Tribal Vision right now, and her intern supervisor is Caitlin Kelly. But right, did I get Caitlin's last name right?
Yes.
Yes. Right. I told you not to trust my memory, but Marcus knows Caitlin, and so she's an alumni from 2 years ago. There's another marketing company in Providence called Working Planet. We have had students there. We have a graduate up at Forrester Research in Boston, which is one of the top marketing research firms in the world, really. We have students working on the New York Stock Exchange. We have students at Wells Fargo, you know, a major company. They're there, Hasbro. Last year,
NASA.
What?
Don't forget about NASA.
Well, I was gonna close. I was closed with the bit.
Oh,
but yes,
sorry.
no worries.
That's a big one.
With me, you got to check in case I forget. But we had a student last year, and this is a great thing on networking. I had brought in a speaker to talk about sales, and you know, a lot of people get intimidated by sales and in the sales field. And as you're probably not surprised, or would be surprised to hear, this person was an extrovert, full-on extrovert. And so it was 5 minutes or 10 minutes before our session started, and so he can't help but not talk to people. And a real quiet student was kind of sitting towards the back, and he asked her, you know, what's your dream job? And she said, well, gosh, she's like, well, I'd like to work at NASA one day. And he says, you know, I don't know anybody at NASA, but I know someone at a company called Honeywell, and they're a contractor for NASA. And they start talking and working and connecting with each other. And by the spring, she has an internship with NASA. And then after graduation, they offered her a full-time job. And so if you go to our program website, we have a little highlight of Abby Claremont is the student's name. And you can see her whole story. But it's a great reminder of the power of networking and creating your own luck. But to me, it's also a testament to you know, the program and where our graduates are going. Any other questions?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. So I got the early admission to the 4+1, but I want to do the 3+3 program. And I actually emailed the dean of the law school, and then he gave me Thomas Langdon's email. And then I emailed him, but I haven't heard back. And that was actually like a couple weeks ago. And I don't know if you guys know anything about the 3+3 program, like it's the business law. Yeah. And like I've been looking at like the the course requirements and everything, and I've been doing them, but I just haven't. And I asked my advisor too, and he said he doesn't even know anything about that. He didn't even know it was a program, so I don't know if it's new, but
No, definitely not new. We've had that for quite a while. Definitely. Can you, Bella, do me a favor and just send me an email? And I'll make sure I connect you with the appropriate people. Tom Schaefer is our director of admissions at the law school.
yeah,
I know Tom Langdon's name, but I don't know him very well. So I'll figure out who's best to connect you with. One of the other nice things about it, if any of you are considering earning your law degree, which is this 3+3 pathway, or at least one option to it. We actually had a student in criminal justice a few years ago do 3+3 in her program. She did legal studies in CJ undergrad, did her JD, but while she was in the JD, she doubled up and got the dual degree master's in criminal justice. And now that we have a dual degree with the MBA, you can actually do the 3+3 with business and the law school and get your MBA as a dual degree in the law program. And you actually save 12 credits in the JD program and 12 credits in the MBA. So you save money doing that. It's a little bit more time and work in general because you're doing 2 degrees. But if you wanted to continue your business acumen and have your MBA after your name, you could do that all packaged together within the JD if you did things right and do the 3+3. So that's really going to be, talk about the ultimate savings and getting three degrees with the shortest amount of time and cheapest way to do it. So that's an option too if you want it. But long story longer, Bella, just send me your email and or send me an email and we'll connect further. So I'll put my email in the chat if you didn't grab it earlier.
And to Bella, I'll just say, I'm sorry you didn't hear back sooner. This program, we have a great law school, and I think sometimes this option is just not on the forefront of some of the people in the business school. So we'll get you on the right track and talking to the right people.
okay. Thank you guys so much.
Sure, thank you.
Hi,
Any
I have
other
a
questions?
question.
Sorry, Kiana, go ahead.
So my senior, I'm a junior right now, but senior year, am I able to take more courses, whether it even just be like some of the electives that could count towards the NBA?
So Kiana, unfortunately, we're just really not set up for that. So we'll have you do the course with Dr. Knights. And we want you to go through the rest of it together with your cohort. Now, the one thing I will say, it's not quite the same, but usually there are a few electives options over the summer, and you could do the internship over the summer if you wanted to do that right away. Taking a class or two early it's not like you would graduate from the MBA earlier. But the reality is we're, as you know, if you're here, we're a great small private school, and we just don't have the faculty to have a lot of sections of some of these MBA classes. But you certainly can do a few things that might set you up for success that first summer.
Okay, yeah, I was just wondering because I'm actually going to be done after my fall semester, my senior year. So I had my whole spring semester open and I wasn't sure what I was going to do yet. So I didn't know if I was able to take any other classes during that time.
And the challenge is and I wish this is one of those things I would wish I could help you, and it's great that you're graduating early. Is that's usually all our, we teach the capstone class then and all that. And it's something, but definitely send us a note. It's something, and I think to be a full-time, what is it, 9 credits to be a full-time graduate student, Marcus?
Yeah, grad, yeah.
Yeah, if you don't mind sending me a note, I'm just thinking I might want to think about that a little more.
Okay.
I'm thinking, yeah, I'm not, I'm like, I think it's better to you to not do that, but I wish we had some more options for you.
That's okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? You know, one thing we didn't really mention, I don't think, is the number of students that we take. We're very deliberate about not having a huge number of students. I mean, you're all business students, so you can appreciate the business angle of us wanting to have more students, but we're also, Jay in particular, and certainly the faculty within Gabelli, are very focused on making sure you have a high quality, personalized, cohorted kind of experience. And if you have 40 students in the class, you really can't do that very well. So our target is to have 25 students in a cohort. And we think that's a pretty good number because you have a strong network. It's small enough that you can still meet a lot of folks in the classroom and feel like a family, but not too big. They're kind of inundated. And, you know, some of the other programs that you look at will have much larger classes. But that's something we really pride ourselves on, is continuing that smaller experience that you're used to from undergrad.
Yeah, I think I always say it's a family. I text with almost every student that, you know, while it's not a requirement, it's a lot easier. And so maybe Sammy, could you, I always say family, but is that?
No, that's a good word for it. Yeah, we're a very tight knit group inside of the classroom and out. Like, everybody hangs out outside of class and then in class. We're even close with the professors. Like you said, we went on that sunset cruise, and it was just so nice because you're not treated as much of a student as you are as like a colleague in the graduate level, I would say. It's very professional, and yeah, I think everybody became like really good friends already, and we're a month in. So definitely a family. That's a good word for it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think and I think, you know, given our smaller size, we can do that, which is nice.
Well, it doesn't look like we have many other questions. I know we're right up against 7 o'clock, so appreciate everyone's time tonight. I know we did the full hour, but hope this was helpful for you. We will share this recording out. If you have other friends that are in Gabelli that couldn't make it tonight or want to learn more about it, please share it out. Share it out with business students at other schools if you have friends that are interested in this kind of opportunity. So we'll make that available to you. And we will have an in-person version of this, probably with pizza, the first week of November. I think we're shooting for the Wednesday there, so that would be November 3rd in the afternoon. So check that out if you want to. Even if you just want to come and grab a slice of pizza, feel free to do that. But I encourage other folks to come, and you know, we hope that you'll consider staying a Hawk. And I wouldn't say that if I didn't feel like there was a lot of value add in sticking around for the program. Clearly, there's a lot of great benefits and value in the MBA itself, and getting it in 1 year, you're out and earning a salary sooner and so on. So there's a lot of great benefits to doing that, and you've got some great people here. So thank you again for your time tonight. Thank you, Jay and Sammy, as always, and I hope you all have a great evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Hi, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.